For decades, elements in our government have engaged in an extensive cover-up to subvert the will of Congress and to keep the American public in the dark relating to the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Do you believe the CIA engaged in a concerted effort to cover up certain facts related to the assassination of President Kennedy?
It's been more than 60 years since the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, and yet Congress is still uncovering bombshells that challenge everything we thought we knew, from missing brain tissues to official apologies for government abuse. Here are the top 10 shocking revelations from the latest JFK assassination hearings. Kicking off our list, evidence the CIA ran a covert operation against Congress itself. Investigator Dan Hardaway describes it in his own words, and he was part of the House Select Committee that investigated.
You have indicated that you essentially were the subject of a covert operation as you served on the House Select Committee on Assassinations. Is that fair to say?
The CIA called it a covert assignment.
And that was from, and I can't get Mr. Joanides?
Joanides, yes.
You talked about the obstruction of a federal investigation that you yourself witnessed. You were on the House Select Committee for Assassination, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
We've heard about some of the administrative roadblocks that the CIA put up for you. Did you have any direct verbal communication with anybody at the CIA?
Oh, yeah, frequently.
Can you tell us about some of those conversations and how it might have been conceived as obstruction?
Well, when we first started, we had unlimited unexpurgated access. We had 2 clerks assigned to us. We had our office at the CIA. Pretty much went to work out there every morning. We'd ask for a file. They would go get it. We would review it. It was unredacted and given to us in its original state. After they brought George Joanides in, he began slowly tightening down the process. We were no longer working with 2 clerks who went and got us our files. We had to file formally requests through him to get the files, and we started experiencing significant delays in the files that we would get. We started noticing that the files we would get would have obvious things missing from them. Then he went so far as to actually start putting parts of the files in envelopes and leaving them in the files, so that what we would get is we would sign that we'd seen the files, but we weren't allowed to open the stuff that he had placed in envelopes. That came back to haunt us later in dealing with the final report and some of the things we were trying to get out of them, when they would tell the chairman of the committee, he's seen that, here's where he signed for the file. And I would have to explain to Chairman Stokes that no, that was not in the file when I saw it, because that was what I was looking for and it was not there. It must have been in one of the envelopes. And so he eventually just shut us down. It culminated on one file that I really wanted to see. When it was presented to me, Mr. Joanides showed up himself to give it to me. He was actually bouncing on his toes. Him and Scott Breckenridge brought the file to me at the CIA, called me back out there to see it. It had not just been redacted, it had been retyped with the redactions in white space as it had been retyped. It was a report on a debriefing of a certain person. I exploded. I acted like a very angry 24-year-old and had choice words for both of them and stormed out of the office and went back to the headquarters. I subsequently, thanks to Judge Tunheim's work, saw the memorandum to the record that Mr. Breckenridge wrote. And the memorandum for the record says that the file was shown to me and, quote, no objections were recorded, close quote. Notice the way you have to watch what the CIA says. He didn't say that I didn't make any, which is what everyone infers from what he said. What he said was none were recorded, and that's because he made the record.
Next up, missing autopsy photos and x-rays.
I mentioned 8 sets that I know with confidence from studying the evidence as an analyst are missing. First, an overhead wide shot of JFK's body taken from a stepladder, taken by John Stringer, the Navy photographer. He testified under oath to that. Second, a large bruise atop the right lung, taken from inside the interior of the chest after the lungs were removed. So this is a large blood clot up above where the apical portion of the lung was. And that's been testified to by both Dr. Humes and Stringer that they took those photographs, so they're not in the record. Third, an entrance wound in the lower right of the skull with the scalp reflected, taken from outside the skull. And next, that same entrance wound in the lower right of the skull with the photo taken from inside the cranium after the brain was removed. So what's at issue with these two photos being missing is they would have determined definitively where was the entrance wound in the back of the head.
In case you're wondering who this is, his name is Douglas Horn. He's a senior analyst for military records on the Assassination Records Review Board. And at number 8, it's not just photos that are missing. They are missing the president's brain.
The remains of President Kennedy's brain following its examination were placed in a stainless steel container in 1963. But the brain is missing today, as many people know already. That stainless steel container and an original signed autopsy report were among materials transferred from the Secret Service to Senator Robert F. Kennedy in April of 1965. Those materials and others were not among the materials returned to the U.S. government by RFK on October 31st, 1966, via a deed of gift to the National Archives. The Kennedy family attorney, Burke Marshall, told the HSCA that Robert F. Kennedy had made those materials permanently inaccessible without providing details.
There were claims that the president's body had an hour and a half of missing time.
We know for a fact that the motorcade from Andrews Air Force Base with a bronze Dallas casket in it arrived in front of Bethesda at 6:55 p.m. Remember that time. Sergeant Boyjan of the United States Marine Corps, he led a team of Marines from the Marine Barracks in Washington, D.C. to provide physical security at the autopsy. He wrote a report of what happened that night, and he wrote in his report dated November 26, 1963, he wrote that the casket arrived at 1835 hours. 1835 hours. That's 6:35 p.m., 20 minutes before the motorcade from Andrews arrived. And there is a considerable amount of evidence, a wide range of evidence, that the president's body really arrived by helicopter before the motorcade from Andrews. That's the broken chain of custody. And the issue here, it's a very important issue. The issue here is, if Sergeant Boyjan's report is correct, and he authenticated that to the review board staff, he authenticated that to me with a written letter and with a telephone interview. If his report is correct, then what was happening with the president's body between 6:35 p.m. and 8 o'clock when the autopsy of record started? That's almost an hour and a half.
Number 6, medical experts testified that President Kennedy suffered at least 3 headshots, 2 from the front and 1 from behind, contradicting the official lone gunman story. 2
highly qualified and respected MDs who were granted repeated access by the Kennedy family to the autopsy photographs and x-rays in the deed of gift collection at the archives both agree that the extant JFK skull x-rays reveal unambiguous and clear evidence of 2 headshots fired from in front of the president.
The 2 bullets were fired from the front, caused his death. And either one of them would have.
This is Dr. Robert Curtis. He's a trauma surgeon at Parkland Memorial Hospital, Dallas. You might be realizing the significance here because Dr. Curtis personally saw JFK's wounds moments after the shooting. He is a first-hand witness. Number 5, halfway through our list, the legendary Zapruder film. Hollywood experts testified that key frames showed evidence of visual effects.
Studies in Hollywood of the individual film frames, that is state-of-the-art digital scans of extremely high resolution, appear to show the use of visual effects, that is animation or artwork, to crudely and blatantly alter the image content in some key frames. To state the problem simply, the digitized Zapruder film, studied by professionals in Hollywood, does not show the massive exit wound in the rear of the head seen at Parkland Hospital. and by many witnesses at Bethesda during the autopsy, because it has been blacked out. And yet the film does appear to show head wounds not seen at Parkland Hospital. We now know that rather than spending the entire weekend following the assassination in Chicago at the Life printing plant, as was originally claimed, the Zapruder film actually spent most of the weekend in the custody of the CIA in Washington, D.C., and at Kodak's main research and development laboratory in Rochester, New York. The attitude of one National Archives official, expressed in writing circa 2009, was that they, quote, do not ever intend to take the film out of the freezer again, end quote. This decision should be overturned.
Was Oswald really just a lone drifter? Multiple experts now say the evidence is overwhelming. Oswald was being used by the CIA in Mexico City weeks before the assassination.
On what you know, what relationship, if any, did the CIA have with Lee Harvey Oswald prior to the assassination of President Kennedy?
Based upon the circumstantial evidence of record, and it is overwhelming, they had they used him as either a witting or an unwitting agent of influence.
Seems that way.
Within 2 weeks of Kennedy's death, pathologists had created 4 different conflicting conclusions. Why so many?
Navy pathologists arrived at 4 sets of differing conclusions about President Kennedy's wounds and how he died within the 2 weeks after his death.
Runner-up, the famous magic bullet theory that doesn't hold up. Multiple doctors directly refuted the idea that a single bullet could count for Kennedy and Governor Connolly's wounds. The trajectory would require 3 90-degree turns, impossible according to trauma doctors.
The magic bullet had to exit the throat to go into Governor Connolly, which couldn't have happened. The magic bullet would have had to make 3 90-degree turns to do what it did. It was coming down from the window, would have had to turn a right angle to be horizontal through the neck, would have had to turn right again to go over to where Governor Connolly was, would have to turn right again to go into Governor Connolly. It doesn't work.
Yes, sir. I can speak for myself. I do not believe in the magic bullet theory.
Bullets don't do that.
No, do not. I do not, sir.
Before we get to our final revelation, please hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps the channel. And finally, the most shocking revelation, first-hand testimony from a former Secret Service agent and his attorney describing an official government-wide cover-up.
It was one of the greatest cover-ups of a crime. Now, the Secret Service initiated so many cover-ups. Number one, the number of bullet fragments that were found in the car.
Now, unfortunately, the audio went, but he did state that he was arrested, that they attempted to declare him insane, they forced him to take drugs, they kidnapped him out of Washington, they denied him an attorney. Every constitutional right was violated because he would not keep quiet about the assassination. But the wildness didn't end there. There is a bonus.
I will say, at least I speak for myself, I do not believe that Mr. Bolden was actually guilty of a crime. I do believe that he was falsely, if you will, framed. And so on behalf of the U.S. government, we'd like to apologize to him and his family, because obviously that's not how we are supposed to treat people in this country. And so you have our sympathy and as well as our apology for the treatment of that. But we will be happy to follow up on that, because as stated, we would like to collect and make sure that this does not happen to future individuals, and that requires changing of laws and also putting protections in place.
From missing evidence and altered films to official apologies for government abuse, these revelations prove the JFK assassination is far from over. What do you think really happened in Dallas, and does the public deserve to see every secret file? Let us know what you believe and what you want us to investigate next. And once again, I'd like to say a big thank you to all of my Patreon and YouTube subscribers who keep this channel going and growing. If you'd like to become one, there's a link in the description. You can even buy me a coffee. Once again, thanks for listening. Bye for now.